This will be the last video on how to use the race control clock and log application, or RCCLA. I'm John Dillon. I designed and built the system. What you have seen now is that the program gives you the ability to keep track of time, both boards for cars on grid getting ready to go out onto the track, as well as session time for cars already on the track. You've seen how different calls can be made and captured quickly when a driver error occurs. You've also seen how special buttons are available for routine tasks such as starter calls for time remaining, or special flag conditions such as a black flag all, or full course yellow, or a red flag. We also have a special button for alerts and canceling the alerts. And of course, checkered flag and courses clear kinds of functionality. We saw that once we put a call into the log, if it needs to be changed, such as a car number correction or a situation involving a tow, that it's very simple to double click on that log entry and edit the call with the complete audit trail available to us by capturing the is and was conditions. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can export sections of the log to individual files, which can then be shared if you put it on a shared disk drive, for example, or a public space on the web or in the cloud, or it can be printed. So let's get started. Here's our program running again. We're coming up on a 1-minute board for Group 1 qualifying. It's a 20-minute session, so I'm going to change that here. Tab out of it. Notice I was not prompted, do I want to make it affect the current session, because the current clock is not running here. Let's go to 1 minute and releasing the cars. So I release the cars. We have cars on course here at 7:09. And while things are happening out on the track, they're cycling out onto the course. And maybe I've got one that immediately spun in pit lane. Pit in calls to tell me the car 9 purple spun and continued. And then I want to edit that to make it clear. Spun and oops, not that one. I want to edit 9 purple, spun and continued. I want to make it clear that it would happen in pit lane. And there we have it. So another thing to point out, when we have a was condition, I mentioned earlier, these brackets give us a timestamp, right? And over on the right-hand side, we have braces, sometimes called curly braces or curly brackets. Braces indicate the call number, an arbitrary number. If we have a was condition, instead of brackets, I have these less than, greater than signs, or I'm sorry, these slashes or virgules, descending, ascending. And that tells me at a glance that that's a was condition. Meanwhile, Group 1 qualifying is on course, but the steward from Group 3 wants more, they want to have a copy of the log. So here's Group 3 practice. Not much happened, but that's okay. So let's go with, let's say Group 4 instead. It was the one, oh yeah, it's Group 4 that I want. Meanwhile, we get another call. Here's turn 12, car 6, Brown, our old friend, is off and on again. But I want to capture practice for Group 4. To do that, I go to File, Export Selected Calls. I click that button, and now I see that same list of all the calls in a separate window. And here I simply scroll down to Group 4 practice. Oops. Here's Group 4 practice and where it starts. I scroll down a little bit more, and let's see, I'm looking for the courses clear. And here it is, a session clock stop. Of course, is clear. If I hold down the Shift key after clicking on one thing, Shift will select everything from the first thing that I clicked on to the last. So that's a standard Windows feature that you probably already know. Shift click and Shift click. If I want to specifically include something else, I could pull down the Control key and click on something like that, and it would be added. If I want to turn it off, Control click again. And then also, if I want to export everything I've got, I can choose this Select All button, and absolutely everything would be chosen. But here, I'm only choosing Group 4 practice from when the board started until the course was clear from that group. I have this great big Export Data button. Before I click it, let me show you three options. One, I could say include the was items. That's normal, it's checked. Normally I want the full audit trail, not just the final result of the call. At the bottom, open file after export. That's normally on as well. When I export it, I want to immediately be able to see it. So I have that checked. It will open the file in whatever your default text editor is. Normally that's Notepad in a Windows environment, but you may be using another tool, such as Context, which is a wonderful tool, CSS HTML Validator, an even better tool, or Notepad++, another nice aftermarket tool for working with text files. The middle option here, include only calls with car numbers, is normally unchecked. Normally you want everything related to the session, even if it's not related to a car number. I will also tell you that this option is imperfect. Here's how it works. First, it grabs the whole line of stuff in the text in the program, and it says ignore everything in these brackets. So in other words, get rid of the timestamp for evaluation, whether to include it or not. Never gets rid of the actual timestamp. The line never changes. Similarly, it says get rid of the braces at the other end, the call number. So now, in this case, it's evaluating, for example, lap 2:137 triggered by ending session. It then looks at for a colon in there somewhere. Here it found lap 2: so it says ignore everything to the left of the colon, grab everything that remains. And then finally it says, is there a digit in that remaining chunk of text? Well, in this case, 137, there is a digit, actually 3 of them. And so it would include this, even though it doesn't actually relate to a car number. Up here, it relates to car numbers. It would see the 6, brown, etc., but it would see the 6, and it would see it on these 3 lines, and so those 3 would be included and relevant. But this up here where it says board set to 1 minute, that 1 is a digit. It would assume that that is also a car number, even though in reality it's not. So the algorithm is not perfect. Don't expect perfection if you check this box. Future enhancement, perhaps. Now I'm going to export data. Remember, it's going to open the file after export because I told it to do so. Tell it where I want to save it. By default, it gives it a unique name. And then here that file is. This is Group 4 practice. There's a little bit of header information to tell you. And then here's all the Group 4 practice stuff, down to and including. And remember, we started the board for Group 5 while Group 4 was still on course. So all of this is also included. Until finally we said the course is clear here at almost 6:53. So if we wanted to measure the total time, we started the board at 6:50:51, call it roughly 6:51 to 6:53. That was a fast 2-minute session for everything. But it is a way to export it. Now, once you have this in Notepad, again, depending on your text editor. You can choose to print it, or you can save as. Save it in the cloud somewhere if you have a Google Drive or a Microsoft Drive or an iCloud Drive. Or your organization may have some shared disk space available on the network somewhere where you want to drop all that information. However you want to do it, what you now have is just an excerpt. So let's go over those steps again. You go to File, Export Selected Calls, select the calls you want. I'm taking advantage most usually of click and then shift click, and then export data. Give it a name. It will open unless you tell it otherwise. And there's that collection of calls. So that's the race control clock and log application in a nutshell. I'd be interested to hear your success stories, as well as any feedback you have, any challenges that you faced with the program. And as always, send me your suggestions. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that the series of videos has been useful to you, and I hope that RCCLA serves your needs for your time up in the race control tower. Until then, rally on.